I've seen just about everything. Seen queens overthrow kings, and straights flushed away. I felt the sweat after every re-raise, and nearly buckled after bad beats. Seen rags lead to riches, and witnessed countless miracles on the river. So if you want to play, take a seat and show me something I haven't seen. We play at FullTiltPoker.com.
Diego Cordovez.
Adam Schoenfeld.
Welcome to The Scoop, brought to you by Full Tilt Poker. We had Phil Hellmuth Jr. on, part 1 last week, and not surprisingly, he's not reticent.
More.
We got more coming. If you missed part 1, he's at Card Player TV. Now, you talked about the aces, which is more of a theoretical question, but old school Phil wrote a column, and I don't remember if it's queens or kings, but you said that you had a big pair, and a guy moved it on you, and you put him on pocket sevens, so you'd be a big favorite, but then you laid it down because that wasn't a big enough spot. So is that still
well, you asked
old
me
school
about
Phil?
this. I won't
Right.
do that anymore. If I think
situation,
yeah,
right.
I would not do that. No way.
So old school Phil has some modern adjustments.
No. That was what you're talking about. Is basically throwing aces away, but is basically throwing aces away before the flop. It's the same thing as
Right.
queens.
Same
It's
concept.
the
Same concept. Yeah,
right.
I
This was
looked
an
at
actual
that
situation.
Right, I looked at that for 6 months and realized that I just can't do it. And
Okay.
as players get tougher, you can't do that. I mean, you just
Well, that's one thing. I mean, Adam and I have talked about, offline about your game, which is that
We've talked about this a lot.
A lot of the old school Phil, which won 11 bracelets, which has won a lot of tournaments, is, as you described, kind of low risk, finding spots, getting chips without exposing yourself, and that's a strategy that works a lot better against weak players than strong players, against inexperienced players versus experienced players. Part of the evolution of poker is not just that there are more aggressive players, which actually probably feeds into you because they're over aggressive, but they're also a lot better players. They're a lot smarter players. So, one view would be that your tactics are going to be a lot less effective because instead of being 5 of these guys at a table, there's only 1 of them now or 2 of them. And the better, the stronger players, not only are they less susceptible to that strategy, but you've been so vocal about the way that you play that they're looking to
They know what your
exploit you.
strategy is. Yeah.
it's kind of funny to me that that my critics, whoever they are, and I have a lot of critics. My critics will say that Phil is only good against weak players, but they forget that I won my first 9 bracelets against the greatest players.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kind of laugh at that, and then of course I just crush. I'm playing with all these great players on Poker After Dark, and I think my record's been like a first, a second, a first, a second, a third, a first. I mean, just the last like 6 I played, and it's crazy.
Let me play devil's advocate to that. Poker After Dark is a single table satellite or a cash game with a single table. The modern World Series of Poker main event certainly, but all the hold'ems except for the 40,000, which they may not have again, are giant fields where you have to go through days and days, and now there are hundreds of these really good kids that we don't even know who they are, and your style might not be as effective against those guys as it is against one table where you know everyone, or the old school guys where there were tons of businessmen.
Yeah, but wait a minute. But now you've said that. But now you've criticized the fact that I can't. That allegedly I'm really good at just playing weak players.
No,
wait. And then people say, but then I crushed the strong players for years. So I mean, obviously, I've crushed strong, great players, and I've crushed weak players for years. And look, in the main event the last 2 years, it's not what I wanted. But I mean, I made 45th out of 7,000.
No, you had
last year.
Yeah.
And then I made the money this year.
Yeah,
and if I wouldn't have donked it off on day 4, I mean, there were 15 minutes left in day 4 when I went out with pocket aces, by the way,
Right.
and I was gambling that hand, and I don't regret it because I just.
How could you regret it?
I think I was following online, and I think the aces hand, that's one where I like the way you played it. You're at that point, you're lower on chips, you're slow playing, you're trying to win.
I was
something
gambling.
big.
Yeah.
What hurt you earlier was you were involved in a hand where 2 jacks came on the flop, and you were up against a player he had ace jack. He wasn't a real sophisticated player.
He was aggressive, though.
He was aggressive,
Yeah.
probably tricky, but
Look, it's worse than I don't like.
that's the one that hurt. It's always
I
the
made
one
like
that leads to the
100
final hand, not
right,
the final hand.
right. I made $120,000 call on the river with that hand. I re-raised him before the flop with 9s. I don't like the way I played that hand. But if you want to criticize me, Jesus, I took 6-7 offsuit, like in the first 3 or 4 hands. Raise on the button. I called huge re-raise from the big blind. I called that too. He had aces. It came 8-10 deuce. I called 50,000 to draw to a belly buster.
Right.
The 8 paired, and he shut it down. He checked behind me, a queen on the river, and then I bluffed 80,000 with 7 high, which he snap called with aces. That frickin' new school super fast fill. I mean, I had 500,000 after day 3. Old school Phil would have made it through day 5, like 80%.
Right, you could roll
of the
through
time.
day 5, right?
Yeah.
Could have rolled. I mean, I'm picking off, and you want to talk about there's 7,000 players. You want to tell me how many great players there are? There are tons of horrible players in that event.
In the main
Well,
event,
the main
yes.
event, right?
Fair
The main
enough.
event is the
No, fair
unique
enough.
event.
So I mean, that day was about me, and I was just, and I remember I was up till 5 in the morning working out, and I said I don't want excuses, but for some reason I couldn't. It was extraordinarily frustrating because I couldn't slow down.
Right.
You know,
And I kept saying, "What in the hell are you doing?" And I rented a trailer for, I was paying like $5,000 a week for a trailer out in the parking lot. I guess it was gone by then, because I would have probably just gone and taken a nap, which is something I'm going to go back to too. I used to take naps right in the middle of a tournament,
Right.
even when the blinds were high, because when you get in that mode where you can't slow down, you have 2 choices. One, you just battle yourself to slow down, which is a tough battle to win. Or 2, I would just slip out and take a nap, and then I'd come back. Whatever I anteed off, I'd figure, all right, I anteed off 20% of my chips. I would have probably lost 50 if I would have stayed.
or 100.
Or 100.
Yeah.
And I come back, and that 80% that's left is so much more powerful.
We've seen-
now I'm on my game.
We've seen you literally take
Absolutely.
walks, which are to your benefit when you
But
perceive yourself as
exactly.
tilting. All right, but
I've gotten away from that.
Yeah.
I'm playing Chinese poker at every break at the World Series
Yeah,
of Poker.
that's crazy.
I'm wasting all this energy.
So-
It's
Phil, you discussed that your critics. Now, I do have criticism, and I'm going to say this to you
a
bluntly.
shocker. Someone wants to criticize me.
No, but it's not about your play. But I think that you may have gotten to a point where your behavior is actually hurting you. So you've gone so far over the top where you're berating people, which I think is bad to begin with. It's bad for you. It's bad for poker. It's not fair to the other people. But I think where you got so caught up in it, you're losing your focus on the hands that come after that.
Well, I mean, your example would be day 6 from the 2008 World Series of Poker.
I mean, I probably have many examples, but go ahead.
No, I mean, of me really going over the top, probably in the last 2 years it was only day 6. But you have to understand that was the second to last hand of day 6. I'm completely exhausted. I've fought my heart out to make the final 110 players. And some guy calls a big over-the-pot size raise with a 10 and a frickin' 4, right? And I just I couldn't handle it. I mean, by the time you hit the end of day 6, man, you're not sleeping, and but I agree with you 100% that, and I was a lot better this year. I agree with you 100% that I'm hurting myself. And I'm costing myself endorsement money, and I'm costing myself some love. I mean, I'm the most passionate poker player in the world, I believe. Are you arguing with that?
No.
I should
think
be
that's great.
promoted as the most
Right.
passionate, as the guy who has 11 bracelets. Instead, I'm poker brat,
Well, no,
who loses at the
And-
table,
and also-
Right, right.
who comes in a Caesar.
which is
Right.
a shame.
Eventually, the world's gonna. Eventually, we're gonna tone that down, and eventually, I'm gonna be known for the passionate champion that I am.
and also
the
you-
Caesar's a great. I mean,
No,
the
that's fine.
entrances, the publicity are great.
I
things.
enjoy that.
I mean, to Adam's point, that famous incident, and there are other less publicized ones, but that one, not only is it disrespectful to the other player, but you were lucky it was the last hand or the second to last hand of the night, because if it's early in this session, you might just tilt off the rest of your chips, or you know, it might
Well,
really
that's
affect you negatively. So besides the fact that it was rude to the other player, it really could have been more damaging to you than it was.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that's part of getting rid of it with, you know, going off a little bit, you know, is the fact that when you're going off, you do get rid of some of that steam.
You admit that it's
Okay.
wrong to call other people names and that you shouldn't do that,
Completely.
especially in your position.
Completely. Yeah, and I agree with what you originally said, in that it's just bad for me, and it's true, it is. And I think in 2006, for some reason, for that 1 month at the World Series of Poker, I lost Poker Brett. Only when I got eliminated from the final event was I just a little bit,
Right.
and Norman could say just a little bit, but that whole month Poker Brett was gone, and I had a first, a second,
Yeah,
a
right.
third, a fifth, because I was able to just have a c'est la vie attitude
Yeah.
and understand that, all right, look, you're the best player at the table.
You don't
You
have any
know.
distractions that are
Yeah,
undermining it.
and instead of getting any emotion, it was like I put a hood over my emotions, and I just rolled with it.
Yeah, that would.
And it was my best result ever. And in order for me to get to 24 bracelets, I may have to get rid of some of the poker.
I mean, I've
stuff.
said to
Yeah.
people that I don't think you're going to win another bracelet until you control yourself, because I think you've gone beyond what you were before. Everyone likes a little personality and a little spice.
I
and that's-
disagree with that.
Okay, but I just want you to tell you right to your
Yeah.
face, and
Yeah, okay.
it's I root for you. And now something
do,
that's been
thanks.
remarked upon
Yeah.
for so long. Diego and I have talked about this many times. In real life, you're a wonderful guy. You've got the twinkle in your eye.
Don't tell them.
I've made fun of you at a party. You laugh at it. You know, you have a good sense of humor about yourself. But there's some, and it is, maybe it is because you're so passionate. But that's still, you have to gear that back, or else it's bad.
Yeah. No, it'll definitely be good for me on almost every single level to get rid of the poker brat. Now, a lot of people really enjoy watching that. You know what I mean?
Right,
And
but that's more their problem, I think.
Right,
you
but
know?
you
don't want
watch-
to feed that.
Watch the final
You're-
table where I'm going for number 12, and Phil Ivey and I have this
Phil,
great.
you're gonna play-
without being poker brat, there was some great interaction going on.
With your
there.
natural personality,
course.
where you say you're cocky, no one thinks being cocky is bad. You're going to put asses in seats, but you don't need to go where you're berating people.
But also, I think that's a good example in the sense that if you're up against Phil Ivey, or you're up against, you know, Daniel or Eric Seidel or whoever, some top player,
Patrick Antonius.
that's like you're equals. You're both champions. You're bantering back and forth. When you pick on a guy who maybe the World Series is the only event he plays the whole year, he got it on a satellite, then it comes off looking like you're a bully. And you're not trying to bully them, but you've lost control, and now that's the way it comes off. And if people enjoy that, I think that's their problem. I mean, that's a bad
Oh,
thing
come
to
on.
enjoy.
You didn't like watching John McEnroe?
John McEnroe was dealing with a professional referee and a professional opponent. He wasn't berating.
But did
some
you
fan.
enjoy watching him? Are you going to tell me you don't enjoy watching
John
him?
McEnroe's my
Yeah.
favorite.
You don't
player.
enjoy laughing at me when I'm in those moments?
But it's bad. I feel bad
I
about
cringe
it, though.
at some-
I
You
don't
do
like,
feel
I don't,
bad,
I
but
don't
you
want to be
laugh.
laughing. I
No,
don't
no.
wanna
I
be
you know what?
laughing.
I
right?
cringe on some of them because when it's just some guy who may not play the main event again, and you call him an idiot on TV, I really have to say I don't laugh at that. There are other moments when I do, and you have a point.
But even if I
Yeah,
laugh,
yeah.
the thing is, I mean, you know, not
You
to,
guys know me, and you're like, wow,
Well, see, that's the thing.
not
It's like,
Phil.
I know
but
you.
that's what you see,
I know you,
right?
and I respect you a lot as a person. So when I see that, it's I don't know if I even laugh, and I just feel like it's a shame because people are getting this view of
Yeah.
Phil, and that's
Yeah, that you know what?
shame.
I always assumed that I didn't mind being poker brat. I always assumed from 2003, 2004 that the world would know me, and that
Right.
they'd understand that actually I'm not the bad boy of poker. I'm one of the good boys of poker.
Right.
I don't do drugs. I'm not a huge drinker. I haven't cheated on my wife in 20 years we've been together, not one time. And I'm happily married, and I have kids.
Yep.
And I thought this is all going to shine through, that Phil is going to be known as the good boy of poker because, and so this is just a little lull that you're in. Well, you know, and now to see where I am now, you know, in 2009, and to have so many people not even like me, the American
it's
public,
it's a
Right.
much
and the
bigger world
worldwide
now,
public,
and
But this
they
is
don't
not-
all know you
and to
personally.
think, and I'm still the bad boy.
But this is the
How
point-
can this be?
but
And
this-
some of the guys that are the good boys, if the world knew the truth on some of these guys,
of course.
what we know in this room,
This is a
but I've
case
never,
for all
but I will never
celebrities.
open my mouth against those people.
But this is,
ever.
But this is the problem, which is that like 10 years ago when I started playing tournament poker, I'd sit down at the table. I'd know everyone at the table. Everyone knew each other.
Yeah.
After the tournaments were over, everyone would go out together, have dinner, and so people would, you know, you could do whatever. People would be like, "I know Phil. They knew your wife. They knew what you were like away from the table.
Yeah.
Now, like you point out, you're twittering out to 2 million people or whatever it is you said. There are people who their only exposure to you at all, they'll never even come to Las Vegas, much less play in the same tournament, and much less go to your house or go out to dinner with you. All they know is this limited image. So it's much more dangerous than in the past.
I agree
Right.
that if you focus on winning and you win more bracelets, that's going to be how you're remembered. But
Absolutely.
you need to do things to help yourself do that. That's all.
There'll
I'm
always be an asterisk next to my name, but I mean just the
Maybe.
asterisk of probably not.
Maybe. You
Just
know
if
what?
I get to 24 bracelets, but I've been a brat the whole way,
It'll be-
people are going to be like, oh, all right, what he's done is absolutely amazing.
No, but I think
But he's been entertaining with all his entrances.
there'll still be an asterisk. But the thing is that people remember the last thing. So 20 years can be actually turned into a benefit where people say, look how far Phil has come. Look at the
Yeah,
look at the way
absolutely.
he is
It would happen
now."
quickly.
And then
I mean-
they'll put the rest in context and say,
would
the last
happen
5 years
quickly.
Phil's been fantastic.
But
It would happen quicker than that. I think 2 years of me not being a poker
Yeah.
brat, and people are
But,
going to say, all right, he's the passionate champion
And
now.
they'll say, look at the way he's
Just to-
changed. You know,
He's
But just to
improved,
close
he's
on that
worked
image,
hard.
That's
on
a
this
classic
point,
story.
I think it's the right thing to do and will be good for you if you gear it back 15%, not 80%. Gear it back 15% to where you're not actually insulting some stranger.
but-
I'd like to gear it back 50% or 60%. Actually,
Start
is-
with
is the
15.
goal. But yeah, 15's a good
go
start.
for 50 maybe.
Yeah.
Well, I did gear it back like 20 or 25% this year. I was also warned this year that
Right,
there was
specifically
like
rules
a rule
for
that
you.
they're calling the Phil rule, right? So
Now, I'm interested.
You were warned before the tournament?
yeah, I mean, I went to
had a
sensitivity
meeting, right?
training with Jeffrey Pollock
Oh, you did?
and all the dealers and floor people. And the thing that I loved about that was that, you know, Jeffrey Pollock and a lot of these guys didn't know, but I asked the floor people, I said, who in this room has ever had a problem with me? No one raised their hands. Because the floor people all like and respect me. I said, is there anyone here who even dislikes me a little bit? Is there anyone in here I've ever mistreated? No hands. And I said, see, Jeffrey, this is what you don't know as the commissioner, is that I have no issues with any of the floor people or the dealers. I've always tipped them well. I've always gotten along with them well. I said, my issue is in the moment. I can't control myself when someone does something I'm not supposed to do.
Now,
And I
Jeffrey
wish
Po-
I could control that. And then Jeffrey, it was nice for the World Series of Poker people to see that, you know.
Now, Jeffrey Pollock had asked you to go to the sensitivity training, or you had found out about it and wanted to meet
He asked
everyone?
me to go. It was before the series started.
And no other players? Yeah.
There were other players.
There were other players, that's okay.
Scotty was there.
Okay.
Good choice.
He's trying to steal your mantle for player abuse sometimes.
Well, I mean, there's a little bit difference between the way he and I went off.
Thanks for joining us on The Scoop, brought to you by Full Tilt Poker. We got Phil Hellmuth,
He's quite
part
garrulous.
2, and we're going to bring him back for part 3. Look for us next week, and write to us at thescoop@cardplayer.com.
I see you. Your eyes. Your hands. Your chips. Everything. So I don't need to see your cards. We play at fulltailpoker.com.